Hi class, it's Mrs. Latinsky and I'm back for another art lesson. I hope you'll join me. Today we're doing a Halloween themed art class and I'm really looking forward to teaching you some new elements of art. We're going to learn about the element of value, things that are in relative lightness and darkness to each other. Different degrees of lightness and darkness creates value. We're also going to talk about contrast, which is when you have things that are arranged together that are in opposites. So in this particular project, it's going to be light and dark. We'll be talking about all kinds of different concepts about space, foreground, and background. So I'm looking forward to doing this with you. Let me show you the project. Here you have a picture from my daughter, Lizzie. She did this one. A couple different spider webs. One, two here, a few different spiders dangling from it. In the background, we have a very dark background on our black paper. And in the foreground, we have spider webs. So we're looking through the spider webs to the background. We have a brightness or a contrast in the value of the spider webs, which are bright, they're white, full of light, and the background, which is the black. The background is the negative space, and the foreground is the positive space. The spiders and the spider web are in the positive space. You can do a lot of different spider webs that connect with each other, and this creates another level of challenge if you feel up to it. You can also choose to create something in the far background. So here I drew pictures of pumpkins, a pumpkin patch, and then what I did is did the spider webs on top of the pumpkin patch. So you're looking through the spider webs to see the pumpkin patch. That's an option, but you have to first choose to draw those pumpkins to start out with. This painting is by an artist named Abraham Mignon. He's considered a Dutch painter, part of the golden age of Dutch painting in the 1600s. This is called a pretty classic Dutch still life. Now, you can imagine it's called a still life. Think of that word still, because things in here are really not moving, or at least they don't appear to be. A still life is something often where you take common objects or everyday objects and the artist would paint them. Here's one by Jan Davids de Heem, and he did this one right around the same time, 1660. Same sort of concept, still life, flowers, black background. All right, here's another one. This one's by Balthazar van der Ast, and this is another one, a flower, still life. He did this one in 1628. So in the 1600s, there were a lot of Dutch painters painting dark backgrounds with still lifes in the front. The contrast is so evident in the back. We have this where it's extremely dark and the value is very dark. But then in the foreground, which is the front of the painting, we have some very light elements and it really draws your eye with the contrast, right? Here we have a china vase or bowl, a china, and back then chinaware was very popular to put in paintings because they had just recently acquired a lot of things from China. Trade routes were open, so they could, for the first time, have access to the art from China, and so they started incorporating it into their own artwork. And these are oysters, I think, and oysters had some form of important symbolic meaning to them. I don't know what, but they're trying to put them in the front of the painting to say something. But another reason I chose this particular painting is there are some hidden elements I bet you didn't see when you first looked at it. This one in particular, let's zoom in. Here we go. Do you see what's here? He hid little insects in this painting. Well, it looks like just some normal everyday fruit and foods. It also has some little critters stored inside of it. Here's a spider web here and a spider web here. And the spider webs are in the foreground with the spiders, and you can look through to that dark background as well. And there's that contrast and value where you can see the light and the dark against each other. There's also some other critters I wanted to show you. Here's a moth. And I think there's some other ones. If we look here, we see a snail hiding, a few other creepy crawlies. And here's, I don't know, what do you think, a centipede perhaps? Or I don't know, what, a caterpillar? And of course, right here's an important thing, there's a pumpkin. What you're going to need today for this art project is you're going to need a pencil, you're going to need your colored pencils, and you're going to finally get to use that black sheet of paper that you got in your packet of art materials. So to draw a pumpkin, you need to draw something. I don't know what you're going to call this shape. What is it? It's kind of an oval, pointed oval on its side, like that. That's the first step to drawing a pumpkin. Second step is you start at the top and you go all the way around on the side like this. We're going to end up with something that looks like an eyeball at first. They don't have to be even. I think these are called the ribs of a pumpkin. Start at the top again, and go all the way to the side and curl around to the very bottom. And you just keep spreading out your pumpkin this way, just like that, until you have something that's roughly a pumpkin shape. Always start back in the middle, go back to the bottom. Shade the pumpkin and then highlight over those sections. I can also put some grass here on the bottom to make it look like my pumpkin isn't floating in space and that it's sitting in a field somewhere, just a little green. Use little white dots to indicate where you want the center of your different webs to go. Draw lines through those dots, anchoring them on the outside of the paper. You can do anywhere from 6 to 8 lines. Now you're going to start in the center and you're going to make a little U shape between each segment. Try to keep them roughly on the same level as you go. So there's the first line, and then you can decide if you want to be really close and tight to each other, further apart. These are your spider lines. That's how you do it. This needs to attach to something in the foreground. It wouldn't attach to the pumpkin because remember the pumpkin is in the background. So we can carry this across the front, pumpkin a bit more. Just keep going over top of the pumpkin, I know. Like this, off more. This can continue off more. This is the one we're going to focus on now. We are going to have this one this way and off the page, just like that. And you can put yours anywhere you want, but notice these are going to start intersecting. These spider webs are going to run into each other. These spiders are going to have territory issues because some spiders are going to invade other spiders' area. Continue filling in this spider web and pay attention to where they are going to meet each other. If you're drawing on top of your background image, you're going to have to draw a little harder because remember that pumpkin or whatever you choose in your background is behind it. Fill in that other spider web round and around till it looks like it's as filled out as you want it to be. Notice though, we have developed a contrast in value between the white of the spider web and the black of the background, and that creates a sense of tension or interest here where we have two extremes against each other. It also kind of creates a sense of spookiness, which is what I'm going for because of Halloween. So you get to now work on building out all these other spider webs. Make sure they extend all the way off the side of the page so they're anchoring somewhere off in the distance even though you can't see it. Go all the way around and around and around. And it's going to start getting very interesting soon as these spider webs begin intersecting with each other. When the spider's building, it's going to have some interesting choices. It's probably just going to go here, this far now. And then we have this one coming in. We have to decide what we are going to do. So this one can keep building out, but now we have this one that's coming into the picture. I bet you he does some interesting things right here. And this has got to connect to something. It might connect to this guy. Have fun with it. Fill in some lines where you think they might go. There's no right or wrong on this. This is just what you think the spiders did. I get a little carried away. Or I should say my spiders get a little carried away. I don't know. Does it look weird to have this big open area? But I sort of like to keep this big open area here because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my little spider, my very busy little spider right here. He has a little round body. And then he's going to have his little legs. There we go. Two little spiders right there. See how the spiders over here kind of help balance off the mess and mayhem of all this to create some balance in this work that is otherwise pretty busy. So thank you for drawing with me, and I love seeing your artwork. Please share.